to the public. So they're going to be doing some median work on US 30 that will have US 30 lane restrictions later this week. They don't have a date yet.
George is not coming.
I think so.
Can we hear from Mike?
I didn't.
I don't remember hearing from him.
Mike said he was coming.
Yeah,
He responded to George saying George wasn't out of town, saying that he was.
What we need for quorum?
3. Yep.
What happened?
I'd have surgery again on the same hand.
Huh?
I'd have resurgery on the surgery.
About time. We were waiting to start the meeting with all the press. God,
We appreciate that.
welcome. I'm gonna start the meeting if he comes.
Yep.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I call this meeting to order. It is our tradition to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Begin the first part of the meeting with the minutes from the prior meeting. You should all have received that in your packet of information. Did anyone notice any changes, corrections that need to be done, additions?
Would they be approved as presented?
Rick moves to approve,
Second.
and Jeff seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are approved. Next, we'll move on to claims. And I'll turn it over to Jeremy for rendition and detail.
Clarification.
Clarification and all that sort of thing.
First claim, American Structure Point, $47,291.64 is for ongoing engineering work for the Anchorage Road project, which is an NDOT project. So we'll pay out 80%, get reimbursed, or we'll pay out 100%, get reimbursed 80%. So a lot of that money will come back to us as part of our reimbursement for the NDOT project, but we have to pay out 100%.
Is the reimbursement difficult or delayed in any way?
It is, it's not difficult, but it is a process, so it doesn't come back immediately. I mean, it usually, once the project gets going and we start sending in invoices and claims, it's usually about a 2.5 month, 3 month turnaround. We'll get the claim submitted, we'll pay it, we'll submit it to them, they'll process it, and then usually about 1.5 months, 2 months later, we'll get our 80% back.
So it's within 60 days roughly?
Generally, it always takes a while to get that first one through the queue. But once it's set up in their system, it seems to go a little quicker.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
1433.75 for Troyer for ongoing services for Husky and Parker. 2125 is also Troyer for North Point Drive. 1,620 is also Troyer for 300 North Trail project. 4,916.31 for Westler, and the 2250 for Westler. One is for services related to the airport industrial park, and the other one is for the tech park lift station. 23,065 for Graycraft is for signs, for the tech park signs. The 23,000 specific to the Ivy Tech, moving their sign from along US 30 back to Polk Drive. The 97,668.60 is for the existing contract for the tech park signs. The 23,065 is in a change order that you're going to see here in a little bit for the Ivy Tech sign. Baker Tilly, 2,800. I believe this is for some of our professional services requirements concerning our tax increment bonds. So every year we have reporting requirements that they complete on our behalf. 8,660 is the last parcel that we need to acquire for the 300 North Roundabout. And that LLC is the Coles LLC. They're the property owner that leases to Coles. $16,280 to Baker and Tilly is for services throughout this year, which included a number of projects, including the Buffalo Street, the GACI, and I think consolidation of the northern TIF, and then both the central TIF and the Winona Interurban project work that they did, compiling information in terms of potential bonding capacity for projects. $4,314.86 for A&Z Engineering is for the County Road 150 US 30 intersection design and improvement work.
Any questions about,
No, I reviewed them before the meeting.
one other question about the reimbursement. I assume it goes, the reimbursement goes back into the account that it came, the 100% came out of? For the,
Yeah, it's a little convoluted. So what happens, and I've done this a number of times because we've had a number of NDOT projects. So we'll get it reimbursed back to us. It will go into a grant account. And then I will have to prepare a ordinance to take it out of the grant account and put it back into those funds that it was paid out of. So yes, it does end up in there, but it is not an easy task to get it from point A to point
wow,
B.
it's not a direct shot.
It is not a direct shot.
Because I've seen that before where you said we got reimbursed and then it didn't show up for.
Oh, no, I usually only do it twice a year. It depends on how many projects we got going, and because it's such a pain to do, I usually do it once or twice a year. I think the last time and what happens is each project has its own grant account set up. So Market Street has its own grant account. Anchorage Road has its own grant account. Lincoln Sidewalk Project will have its own grant account. And then I'll have to do an ordinance. And it might be a resolution, I can't remember, but I'll do an ordinance and it breaks down every payment and each fund that the payment came out of and where it's going back into. So since it is quite a process, what I usually do, it'll usually get 150,000, 200,000 in there, and then I'll do one ordinance and we'll move all that money back into those funds.
Okay.
Now, if for some reason we needed money in one of those funds, we could do it any time we wanted to, but because most of the projects we're doing, I don't budget money that isn't there, so it's not like we need it within the year. Once we spend it, we're not trying to put it back into the account. That's the project that we've allocated it for in that year, so we'll use it, and then usually at the beginning of the year or middle of the year, depending on where the accounts are at, I'll do the reimbursement. And it'll go back into those funds, but it will never be budgeted in the year that we're working on anyhow, because that money's already been budgeted, so it'd always be the following year in it. So it's not a big deal, but it is a process.
Do you make any attempts to do it before the end of the fiscal year?
It doesn't matter.
Because it's flowing.
It's flowing. If for some reason I needed money in those accounts, then yes, I would. And any project that we've done, we've never been to a point where we had to put that money back into that account because we don't have sufficient funds to do whatever we're doing. But if that were to happen, then absolutely, we would probably do it on a revolving process where we'd set it up to where we'd automatically get it back into that account. But we're pretty balanced in our accounts, so I'm not too worried about it.
Okay, good. Jeff, do you have any questions about the claims?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Jeff and Rick to approve the claims as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Claims are approved. Moving on to the next item on is the new business of resolution.
So we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. We are looking to expand the GATKey TIF district. So what you have is the starting resolution is that designating resolution and the legal description, as well as a map of the area that we are looking to include into the existing GATKey TIF.
And the purpose of this is?
The primary purpose is in order to, so there's some state statutes that allow you to do what they call riverfront liquor licenses.
And we saw one approved just recently.
We have a riverfront district on Center Lake. And there is a restaurant in this area that would like to take advantage of that same process. In order to do that, there's like there's one of 6 ways to qualify for a riverfront district. Unfortunately, only one of them pertains to this area, and the only way we could do it would be to expand the TIF district so that it becomes an economic development area. Then it would become eligible for us to create a riverfront district in this area, which then would make them eligible for the liquor license in those riverfront districts. Now, we're not the liquor board. So the process set out would be we would create the TIF district. Then it would be an economic development area. Then it would go before the council for a resolution to create the riverfront district. That information would then be available for them to have and file for a liquor license. Whether or not the board gives them a liquor license is out of our control.
Right.
So they've asked us to consider this as an option. So that's what we're proceeding forward with. Now, the flip side of that is there's more than one thing we have going on here, right? We also have the Arnault property, which we're probably going to take possession of sometime early next year. We've been working with MACOG for the last 2 years on EPA grants for environmental assessment and potential cleanup funds in the future. MACOG was awarded that grant money earlier this year. They're in the process of going through the RFQs to select a consultant to do the work. Once they've selected a consultant, we'll be eligible to apply to them for grant money to do assessments on our brownfields, of which one is Arnault property. So in the second part of this is including Arnault's property into the expansion of the GATKey TIF would allow us to do similar projects or potential future projects that we have the capability to do with GATKey now with the Arnault property as well. So there's a lot of other obvious projects in this area we could pursue, but that's a couple of them that are the primary reason or drivers for the expansion of the TIF district.
I've got a couple of questions. According to the resolution, this is known as the Winona Interurban
That's correct.
Redevelopment, not the GATKey.
That's correct.
So we're not changing the name.
Nope.
Okay. Secondly, last sentence on the first page of the resolution, it says, "The commission presently has no intention of acquiring any parcels of property
Mm-hmm.
in the expansion area," and you just said we probably are going to take possession of that sometime next year.
Yes.
And the Arnold property was not in the original Winona?
It was not.
Okay,
Nope.
so
Do we need to amend that?
So, yes and no. So, if we had an acquisition list, we could include it as part of this in the plan. It doesn't preclude us from acquiring parcels. It just says that here's a probable acquisition list. But we don't necessarily need to have a list that says we're going to acquire all these properties. It doesn't preclude us from acquiring property within the district once it's created.
Okay, so the resolution, in my opinion, should not say, we have no intention
Can we just
of
strike
acquiring any
that?
parcels.
We can.
I mean, is there a reason we should keep it in there?
Well, if you're saying you're intending to acquire parcels, then you have to list every parcel you're intending to acquire, is what I'm getting at.
If you don't talk
If you
about-
say, we don't have any intentions of acquiring any parcels, it doesn't preclude you from acquiring parcels. It just means that when you get to that point, you have to update your plan that says, we plan to acquire this, or we plan to acquire that. So it's not that we're not going to update this plan over the next 20 years to include some of these other, it's just, and we could say, we're going to acquire the Arnold property, if that's what you wish. You can approve this subject to us including the Arnold property as an acquisition. We can do that.
Okay, I can suggest we do it.
And I'll make sure we update the resolution to do that.
Or can we just strike that paragraph?
I don't want to strike the paragraph because I want to talk to Randy first, but
Okay.
he had asked me, do you plan on acquiring any property? And I said, well, I don't have an acquisition list. We probably will acquire property, but I don't have a list that we're going to definitely acquire these 10 parcels. When we did the Northern TIF District, when we did the tech park, we did that because we knew we were going to acquire all these parcels, build roads, build infrastructure. I don't know the exact outcome of where we're heading with this or
We're
in
not
what
to
direction.
that point yet.
We're not yet. We haven't had any, there might be
That's fine.
10 parcels we acquire, there might be 1 parcel we acquire.
Okay.
But we can certainly say you approve this subject to including Arnold as,
Okay.
Or
Property.
possibly others.
yep.
Oh, you don't want to, well, does that preclude you? Can you say that?
I don't want to say others. I mean, if you want to specifically
Just one.
list the Arnold property, I can talk to Randy about doing that. But I don't know of any other parcels, and I don't want to list other parcels we may acquire.
Right.
Okay. I move we approve. Do you have any questions?
No,
I make a motion we approve resolution 219-09-01, subject to the last paragraph, including Arnold Corporation property.
Yep.
Is that a motion that you're finding acceptable?
Yep.
It'll give you an opportunity
You
to
want
talk
to
to
make it,
Randy, and
you
you
want to
sure?
make it subject to review by council?
We can, I mean, if that's okay with
Is it all
you.
right with you with the main motion, if you add that to it?
If Randy says, well, it'll be easier to approve this, and then you can come back and we can add that as a parcel, and we can do that at a later date. We had a conversation, I can't
Yeah.
recall why we didn't specifically put Arnold in there. It may be an advertisement type requirement, so if for some reason he says, well, you can always come back and amend it, then maybe we'll come back and amend it at a later date. Just kind of depends.
That's what I don't want to step into your motion, but I'm wanting him to have the ability to do what he needs to do with council.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that, yeah, the revisions that might be necessary?
Okay.
So
Is it-
what,
And this is just the designating. We'll have a advertisement. It'll go to the plan commission tonight, it'll go to city council the following city council meeting, and then it comes back to you for the actual adopting of it. So we have some time to change that language.
okay,
I'll second the motion.
Nick makes a motion to approve this resolution 2019-09-01, subject to changing the last paragraph on the first page to include the Arnold Corporation, subject to council review.
Oh, boy, that's well said.
Got
Good.
What did I say?
It's good to know you said it the right way.
Okay.
Don't say it
Good thing,
again. Yeah,
good
no,
thing we
that's-
got this recorded and,
Well, I think that recognizes the main motion and also gives Jeremy an opportunity to do
yeah.
take the steps he may have to take to get what is needed.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The resolution is approved as amended. Okay, thank you. Good discussion, thanks. Good catch there. Rick. Okay, move on to the Graycraft.
This is the change order I was talking about a little bit earlier. We did have one change order in the sign project for the technology park. When we initially did the signs, we did not necessarily know the locations, therefore we didn't know how and to what extent we were going to get power to the locations. So what this change order is reflecting is servicing those signs that we're installing as part of the technology park for power. Some of those services will come off the existing power that we have that services the streetlights, and then some of them will be new services that'll be out by US 30. So it'll be dropped from power poles.
So the sign at Sylvia's US 30 replaces the one that, the Ivy Tech sign that was there?
Yeah, so we entered into agreement with Ivy Tech. As part of that agreement, they've given us the easement to place the Tech Park sign on the corner of US 30 and Sylvia's Crossing. And in our agreement, we've agreed to install the sign that was there up on Polk Drive near, at their entrance, where their entrance has been moved to now.
Do we not have to approve, vote on that easement?
That was already done. We did that 6-7 months ago.
Oh, did we?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Short-term memory. All right, so it's all been legally approved then?
So this change order is just reflecting the electrical needs for those signs.
That's the 3% or $12,000.
Yep.
Okay. You okay with this? Okay. I move to approve.
Second?
And we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay. Moving on. CTP legislative advocacy. See, they're asking for money.
They are.
Surprise.
So to give you a little background information, obviously certified tech parks are set up on, they're capped at the 5 million. It's not necessarily capped per year. So initially, when they created the certified technology parks, they made available to you a maximum of $5 million. And if it took you 20 years to accrue that $5 million, and it took you 20 years, but you have to recertify the technology park. And it's changed a little bit. I think originally it was 4 years, then it went to 3 years, and I think it's back to 4 years now. But over the years, there's been a certified tech park group that's more or less been lobbying on behalf of the certified technology parks to continue to make them successful in various ways and reasons. One of the aspects of the technology park is that you go out and you create an incubator or accelerator, something that is basically supporting economic growth within your community. With it being capped at 5 million, once you reach that 5 million mark, there's no more revenue. So the CTP group has been lobbying or talking to lawmakers over the last 4 or 5 years, trying to amend some of the certified technology park language to create an ongoing funding so that those incubators or accelerators would have a ongoing funding source in the future, not just once the 5 million is done, then you're left to figure out how do you continue to fund that incubator or that accelerator.
So they want to increase it from basically 5 million to 5.5 million.
Well, what they want to do is a cap on a yearly basis that you're able to receive funds every year up to blank. So they've been lobbying for the last 2 or 3 years. They've been trying to get $500,000. So what they've been trying to change is once you reach your 5 million cap, then every year after that, you only get $500,000. But you still get $500,000 to continue to run your tech park, incubators, accelerators that you may have within the technology park, or supporting those technology parks. The recent legislation met, and they did modify the current rules, which do allow you an additional $100,000 per year once you've reached your 5 million cap. But as part of that, they also made it so that you had to earn that additional 100,000. So if you think of a TIF district, you start out at 0, and you build, and you create opportunity, you create increment, you collect that increment. Now you capped at your 5 million. What the state's saying, yeah, we'll give you another 100,000, but now you have to create that 100,000. You're starting over at 0 again. Now, that's not what that's not what the CTP group originally was asking of the state. What the CTP group was originally asking of the state is that you'd get credit for what you've already done, but you'd be capped at the $500,000. They still are out there supporting this legislative change going forward. We had supported them in the past. What you have before you is basically a letter requesting continual support. There are 23 CTPs. If everyone contributed towards this cause, and you can see up here, there's 24,000 consulting fees, approximately 3,000 associated with printing and marketing. If everybody were to contribute, our yearly cost would be $1,175, or a monthly cost of $146.88. As of to date, they've only had a commitment from, I believe, 6 or 7 parks that were committed to participating. So, and if you don't get all of it, then the question becomes, how much are we going to support, or how much is all the parks going to support? If 10 were to sign on, then you could see it would be $2,700 per park. I don't know ultimately how many is going to sign on. The question becomes, how much do we want to commit towards this endeavor?
Okay, our share is,
$1,175 per year.
and then how much per month?
$146.88 or 88 cents per month.
100 and what?
146.88.
Right here. Yeah. But that's assuming that all participate. Is that correct? Right.
That's correct. And,
All
and
have to.
Only 10
Which they're
participate,
saying-
it's $2,700 a year.
Yes, that's right. It changes.
I would assume we just make the annual payment.
well, it really comes down to how important is this for us, right? So if they don't get the funding, they're going to not do the lobbying anymore. So the question really becomes, and that's why I wanted to pull up the last email I had from him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We would make number 7. So you can do the math on 27,000 divided by 7. You're looking at, let's say, $4,000 a year to support. Yeah, it's 38.75 or something like that. So, are we committed? Are we willing to support the cause at $4,000 per year? Because as of right now, that's where we would be sitting. If we don't support that, then there won't be, because they're not going to get all 23.
And the 4,000 per year for how long? Is there an end date on that, or is that a continuing?
Well, ideally, we'd be doing it until we hit what we want, which is $500,000 per year. Now, I think there's a fine line there, right? I mean, if we hit 300,000, or if they say, well, with 300,000, you have to earn, or don't have to earn it. I think you're right. I think at least we're probably looking at for the next 2 years. After that, I don't know that it will continue.
Why is it that only 7 so far have participated?
It probably depends on what those 7 are doing. Some of them have been really successful. Some of them have not. Some of them have incubators, accelerators. Some of them probably are not going to renew their tech park. Maybe some of them are, maybe they've done things that they feel like, yeah, we've went off course. We're not going to continue to seek certified tech park funds, so we're not going to commit any to it. We're one of the newer ones. Some of them may have hit their 5 million, 10 years ago, and don't plan on. They've done what they've wanted to do, and they're moving on. For us, it really comes down to what do we want, and we're kind of in a mixed bag because we're not going to hit our 5 million cap probably for, even best case scenario, maybe another 6 years. So how much value is this to us? Well, we have some things we want to accomplish, right? We want to create an accelerator / incubator. This would potentially be that ongoing funding source once that was created, to have a source of $500,000 to operate that per year would be a pretty substantial source of income to create that economic development growth, to create those opportunities for startup companies, to create the opportunity to draw in people with ideas. So there's a lot of value there. At $4,000 a year, it's probably worth it to look at it for the next 2 years. Now, beyond that, it depends on how successful you are for the next 2 years. I mean, $8,000 to potentially receive in the future $500,000 a year, it's probably worth exploring.
Okay, so can you live with it if the motion was made that we commit the 4,000 per year for 3 years or until we get this?
I wouldn't even I would say the next 8 months, we're committing to 4,000. And then 8 months from now, we'll see where we sit and whether or not we want to commit another 4,000. I'm just telling you realistically, we've all participated in this, in politics and legislative sessions. It's not likely to happen in the next 6 months. So it's going to be an ongoing process, but we can see where we're at 6 months from now. If you would have asked me where we were going to be at a year from now, I'd probably told you the same place we're at. But through their efforts, and not our efforts, their efforts, they've already gotten $100,000 per year that we can benefit from in the future. So the question becomes, is it worth us helping them commit for that $500,000 for at least the next 8 months? And we'll see where we're at 8 months from now. And then maybe making another commitment depending on what progress we've made and what support we might have at the state. That would be where I see this going. I'm not asking for 2 years. I'm just telling you it's probably going to take at least 2 years.
Okay, I would make a motion to accomplish that. Commitments for 8 months, 4,000, and we'll review it again at that time.
Yeah, I think we will probably be reviewing it sometime around June or July again of next year.
I assume the 8 months is the end of the fiscal year. Is that what they're-
I'm assuming, if I'm reading through here, he says August, so the contract ended in August, so let's say we sign a new contract with them sometime in the next month or so, they sign a new contract. That's the assumption that I'm making, is that the next 8 months would be through that legislative session, and then we would come back again sometime in those next 4 months and review and see where we're at, sign another contract with them for the next legislative session.
So your motion is $4,000 for the next 8 months. Contribute to this,
But if
and then review it.
that'll work with Jim.
Is that
Yep.
acceptable?
Yep.
Is it okay to say no more? Because I think it's just under 4, I think, based on the way
Yeah, it's not gonna be four, I would just say no,
Like
no more than
30,
four.
so
Up
up
to-
to
up to
40, is that okay with you?
That'll work.
Yes.
Make your motion up to $4,000 for the next 8 months. Contribution to this.
Is that good, Jeremy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Motion and second, up to $4,000 for the next 8 months as a contribution to this program that CT,
With a review.
Yep.
and then we'll review it after that.
Yeah, we'll talk about where we're at, what successes they've had going forward. I did also include for your information, they did give us a talking point handout, which you have now.
So,
It talks about the background, the proposed legislation that we're trying to get passed and why to support it. So as you're out there talking to your legislators, this is your educational piece. And if you don't have it, I'll email it to you. You can have my copy here. We'll get that into your hands. But let's read through that. So if anybody asks you, or if you're out there talking to your legislators, that would be the piece of paper you want to reference.
If you would, just email.
I will send it out
all
to
the
everyone. Yep.
Redevelopment.
Yep.
Commission members. So we have it in our
Yeah,
hands when we get asked.
It is on board pack, but it might be easier just to print it off from. I don't know how.
Oh.
If I email it to you, you can just
Okay.
print it off
If
from
it's
that
in the-
email.
The board pack already?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. I did not see that. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, it's there.
Why didn't I see that earlier? Got it. Never mind. We have it.
I'll still send
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, you got a motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, is there anything else to come before this fine group?
Our projects are moving forward. 300 North Point's under construction now. 300 North should be starting, if it hasn't started already. Market Street's getting pretty close to wrapping up.